Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at a classic piloting maneuver. It's going to be a 180 to a stop with a dead engine. So to get set up for this one, it's pretty straightforward. You can see we're sitting here, this is Wyndham Airport in Connecticut. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a simulated engine out approach, assuming that something has gone wrong with our engine, obviously engine out. And we're going to try to do everything we possibly can to safely get this airplane on the ground. And I'll kind of walk you through kind of how to set this up. But first things first, we've established everything. We're pattern, speed, everything like that, pattern, altitude, we're all good to go. Generally, when you're trying this maneuver for yourself, always aim to get yourself at pattern altitude as well as about halfway down the runway you intend to use. This is the best time to go ahead and simulate it. So let's go ahead and unpause things real quickly here. And we'll start just rolling down the runway. Everything seems to be running fine. Another beautiful day to be flying. I love this kind of weather and everything like that. And my engine just failed. Okay, our engine is out. So the first thing we need to do is we need to pitch for our glide speed, which in this aircraft is going to be right around 60 knots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to immediately get to that speed and do as best I can is to trim things out so I don't have to concentrate. Now the trick to landing here is to remember the wind is not your friend. So if you're going to try to do this maneuver, keep in mind if the wind is very strong, you're going to have to take your turns very early. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to gently go ahead and bring the nose over and try to keep ourselves as close to the end of the runway as we possibly can. And again, I'll bring the nose down just a little bit. We're trying to go for just about 60 knots. We're just going to try to fly right at the end of the runway. Now this is going to seem a little bit unusual for those of you who used to come in at a slightly steeper angle, but this is the key. Don't pull your base out too far. You're going to run right out of energy before you get yourself down to the ground. Now, if you notice your nose is starting to come down, it's a great idea to go ahead and bring in a couple notches of flaps, especially if you look like you're nice and lined up. In this case, I can see I've got plenty of energy left. I'm actually going to bring in my last notch of flaps right away, and we can even fly this thing to a slip. Remember, this is an emergency maneuver. It's not critical that you land the place in exactly the correct spot that you would normally land it into. So in this case, I'm just going to kind of point right down at the runway, and I'm just going to hold that in. Again, I've got no engine right now, so I'm kind of stuck. Engine's going to get a couple feet off the ground. We're going to go ahead and do our flare. Now remember, we've got a lot of extra energy here, so it's going to take a little bit of coordination on your feet's part in order to get yourself down. In an absolute emergency, you can actually bring the flaps up, which will suck the last little bit of energy out of the aircraft, allowing you to kind of put this thing down. Now, if you're in one of the older versions of the Cessnas and you try that with the Flaps 40, you don't have to worry about that nearly as much. It'll go ahead and get you down on the ground safely. And you can see, even though I never turned the power on in the entire approach, I actually basically landed exactly where I'd planned to. Now, I highly recommend trying this maneuver out, especially with a crosswind. It's going to get really, really tricky as the aircraft that you fly gets progressively heavier. Enjoy.